Hello, everyone. We're live with the Art of Attraction with Dominey Drew. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think I might be coming in a little bit loud. I will turn that down just a little bit. Hopefully, I'm coming through all right. So, my name is Dominey Drew. If you're new to the show, then by all means, welcome. Hi, Andrew. I'm coming to you live on Facebook Live as well. I am here every week. I am coming to you on Facebook. I'm broadcasting on internet radio. And this is also in the form of a podcast. So you can subscribe and download or listen to the podcast anywhere you like. I'm on Spotify and hi, Nathaniel. And iTunes and Google Play and all of the main podcast listening platform. So please feel free to find me there, Art of Attraction, download, subscribe. But what I really like doing with this show is having people call in and really let me know, what it is that you're struggling with. This is exactly what I do. I help single men attract life partners through personal and relationship coaching. And so what I really enjoy doing is having people call in, and I can answer your questions live. This is really embodied work. It's really powerful, and it's incredibly transformative work. So I really get a kick out of answering your questions. Like if I can help, if there's anything that you're struggling with in your dating life or around women or relationships, then now's a great time to call in and ask. So if you want to do that, the number is 828-333-4686. And again, that's 828-333-4686. Still think I might be coming in just a little bit loudly here. Okay. All right. Sound like we're coming in. Okay. So I have great shows lined up for you today. So again, if you do have questions, feel free to call in 828-333-4686. And I've been I love doing this with this show. I love teaching live. I love exploring what I go through with my clients, what they struggle with. Oftentimes, I do work exclusively with men, and a lot of times, men will tend to isolate when they have an issue, whereas women might be more inclined to kind of, talk and work out their problems as a sounding board for each other, right? They communicate their issues away, as opposed to sort of isolating and fixing them within and then rejoining, right? And one's not better than the other. They're just different ways of handling problems. But they do tend to lead to distortions, right? So everything, it's never about what you do. It's about the intention behind what you're doing. How are you doing it, right? So it could be something as simple as, isolating, exactly what we were just talking about, right? So you can isolate, and that could be a really good thing. Like you may want to just take some time and come into yourself and contract and really, check in and, okay, what's happening here? Deciphering what's happening within. Or it can become defensive, right? Like I don't want anybody to see me like this. Then you're doing the same motion. You're going inward and working through your problem, but you're doing it with two different intentions. So when you do it with the latter intention, it's from a place of fear. That's when it's distorted. Okay, same thing with women. Women may naturally want to gather and talk out their problems together, and that can be a very healthy way. Like, what do you think of this? And this is what I was thinking. And we do that a lot. That's great. The way that would be distorted is when you get together and maybe start gossiping. Right? It's not coming from a healthy place of, connection and growth, right? It's coming from a place of nastiness, collusion, okay? Like, oh my God, can you believe what he did? Yeah, what an asshole. Oh my God, I can't believe, and then it's just like, I just want you to be agreeing with me, right? So communication in general, it's not that more is better than less. Some people talk a lot. As you can see, I literally set up a platform where I can just talk into the air, whether anybody's listening or not. And I feel great about that. So that works for me. I'm a talker, in case you haven't noticed. I probably wouldn't have a podcast if I were not. And so, and for people watching, listening live on Facebook as well, if you want to type in a question, you can type me a question and I can answer it here as well. And for those listening in, the number again is 828-333-4686. So some people can be natural communicators. They might overtalk, or they might irritate, or they might be always on output, right? I remember someone describing to me that type of person. You know those people who are just always on output? And I thought to myself, that is such a great description of it. That is such a great way of wrapping up a certain type of person. I was quite a bit that type of person in a lot of ways. Not in all ways, but, nobody is all the time, right? That's a defense, right? Like if I'm always having to communicate and tell you what's going on and give you my opinion, and that's, that turns into just always, me, right? And me can be done in a lot of different ways, but that always on output person who just like won't stop. You're just like, what if you just like stopped, and like took in? What if you let yourself receive for a moment, right? We could call that the output, the masculine, okay? The more active, the more outward, assertive movement, that sort of motion, right? The output is the male. And then the female being the receptive, right? The receiving, the flowing, the sort of earth-based, as opposed to maybe more of like a fire-based type of feel to it. And so what ends up happening is either one can be distorted, right? Same as the way you process the problem, whether you're a female or a male. So a lot of people come to me and say, there's, how can I reliably fix such a wide array of issues, right? And this is actually why, because it doesn't have anything to do with how you communicate, right? It has to do with what's behind the communication. So what's behind what you're doing is my area of expertise. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter. It matters how you're doing it, right? It matters the energy that you're putting out. It matters the beliefs that you're operating under when you do that thing. Yeah? It matters what's going on underneath the surface. And so what's going on in you underneath the surface that you don't even realize is there is my area of expertise. That's what I can put you in touch with. So if you're like, man, I've wanted a partner for a really long time and I can't seem to attract one. Don't know why. Dominey, what's wrong with me? I'm ugly, or I'm poor, or I'm, I don't have confidence, or whatever it is you think is the problem is probably not what the problem is. That's usually a good place to start. Frustrating place to start, but you're already frustrated, right? You're already there. So it'll be a place of less frustration. So the question becomes, what is in between you and what you want? What is blocking you from it? Where are you self-sabotaging? Where do you have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake? Okay, so in the one, you're like, man, I'm single and I just want a partner. I want to start a family. I want someone to travel the world with. I want to have kids. I want to have, the white picket fence, whatever your desire is. If you don't have it, okay, you have the desire, but you don't have the thing that you desire, then you've got one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. You're familiar with the foot that's on the gas, right? You're familiar with the part of you that wants it, because that part's conscious. You're not, however, familiar with the foot that's on the brake. Okay? You can't be. Because if you were, you would have fixed it. Because you consciously want that thing. So if you, if you really, really want a partner and you think that the only reason you don't have a partner is because you don't, you don't go out to bars enough, or something like that. Which seems to be the only place men think that they can meet women. Although I don't know that's a very good place to meet women, boys. It's a place, but it's certainly not the only or best place, I don't think. But anyway, so if if you're like, oh, that's a problem, I just need to go to more bars, and you actually genuinely believed that was the only problem and there was no other issue, you would just go. If you're like, man, if I only did X, I would fix it, you would do X, right? Problem is, you don't know what X is. You don't know what the problem is, or you would have fixed it by now. So, or there's something keeping you from fixing it. Maybe you know what the problem is. Maybe you're like, I need to go out more, but I'm not going out. I have people call me and say that a lot, actually. Right? I do a free introductory call, which if you're interested in scheduling is at domineydrew.com/schedule. And I basically do like a free intro call. We spend like 45 minutes or an hour on the phone. And I actually help show you what it is that, you're doing is holding you back from what you want. It's keeping you single. And then I see how I can help, right? Help you fix it. So that's at domineydrew.com/schedule if you are interested in booking a session and talking to me on the phone about it. But regardless, I have a lot of people get on that free intro call and they'll say, oh, I know exactly what the problem is. I'm like, say, okay, what are you struggling with? And they're like, well, I can't meet anybody. Can't find the right women. Okay. So what are you doing to look for them? And they will tell me they're not doing anything. No, I'm not going out. I'm very busy. Wait, you're on the phone with me, which means you're interested in finding a partner, right? Like they're on the phone for this express purpose, right? And they know that they're not going out to meet someone, or they know they can't find someone, but they're not trying to meet them. Okay. And they go, yeah, I don't know. I just don't go out very much. Okay. What's keeping you from going out? If you do know what the problem is, great, good for you. It's not going out, right? But that's a symptom, right? Not going out is the symptom. So there's something that's going on underneath the surface that's keeping you from doing the things that are going to help you meet someone. So then I go, what is it that's keeping you from going out? That's where the gold is, right? So it's the problem either comes from not knowing what the problem is, and of course it's impossible to fix it if you don't know what the problem is. And or you know what the problem is and you're not able to fix it. Okay? Either way, the problem doesn't get fixed, right? So the answer when they say, how can my problem is approach anxiety and somebody else's problem is dealing with infidelity, or your relationships keep failing and you have no idea why, or you have a terrible fear of rejection, or you just get rejected all the time, or you have low self-confidence, or you can't find the right one, or you keep attracting women who are like either full of drama or prioritize someone else over you, or cheat on you, or whatever your pattern is. When they ask me, they're like, how can you solve all of these problems? The answer is because my area of expertise is where you're screwing yourself. I'm incredibly good at it. People sit down with me in conversation and talk to me. And by the time they get up, they have a whole different perspective on their life. And it's really quite interesting how that works. That's always happened to me. Even when I was a kid, people would talk to me like I was a therapist. My parents got divorced at a young age, and I became sort of the therapist there. That was like my survival mechanism, right? It was like, I'll take care of you so that, you can take care of me, essentially, right? And obviously that was defensive, but here we go. there's, that was my core quality. My core quality is caretaking. And so I over caretaked, right? I became the therapist because that was what was safe for me. Whatever, that was my defense. So people would keep doing this. I would I would go. I traveled around the world for many years, quite some time, and I was traveling alone for the most part. I had a great time, and I would sit down at bars or a restaurant or something like that. And I would just sit up at the bar. I'm chatting with the bartender or whatever, because I'm not really one of those people that doesn't go go out if I don't have somebody. I'm just like, okay, let's go out. So I would go out, and there'd be I don't know, a guy sitting at the bar maybe a few seats away, right? Usually just like a regular dude, not like like some sort of businessman. I don't know, he's on some sort of business trip or something. This happened to me so often, not just a couple of times. This is like a really regular experience for me. And so we would get to chatting a little bit or whatever, chit chat, and within about 10 minutes or so, they would say something like, "I can't believe I'm telling you this. I've never told this to anyone." And it would usually be sexual. It's like there's just something about me that says tell me all your shady fetishes, which is great because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more, which is probably what that thing is. But there was something that just about me that told people to just sort of tell me all their inner shit, basically, right? So, and I would and I have no problem with that, no judgment around it. It's like, that kind of thing is ridiculously common anyway. And, so yeah, let's just, let's talk about it. No big deal. And so they would share these things with me. Right. So, and then in a few minutes they would get up and their life, they would be like, oh, I'd be like, oh, what about this? And they'd be like, wow, and you just see them shift, their whole system would just shift very slightly. So there's a really good story about that, actually. I was living in Boston, and I was on the bus, I don't know, maybe down to New York or something. And I had my book, and I was ready to read my book, and settled in. And I was seated next to this beautiful Indian woman, probably about maybe early mid-30s, right? And I was probably late 20s. And I had just opened a coaching practice in Boston, and so she sort of sat down and just making polite conversation. She's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a coach." Da, da, da. And turned out that she was a doctor. Maybe she was a resident. She was definitely well into that process, and she was beautiful. She was a doctor. She clearly, she was probably 12 years of schooling into this, right? And so I asked her about that, and then she said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a coach. I help people." And I was doing quite general work. Then I wasn't working specifically with men or specifically with dating, and so I just sort of said, I help people they figure out where their life is going. What changes they want to make. Where they want to be and why they're not there now, and how to bridge the gap, whatever. And she goes, and she looks, and I was just trying to get back to my book, right? But we're making polite conversation. And I say this to her, and she looks in that moment like I had slapped her in the face. Okay, just right across. She just looked totally taken aback, and she goes, "Where my life is going." The thought had never occurred to her in her entire life. And I would sort of haha, kind of laughed, didn't think anything of it. And then throughout the trip, probably for the next hour, every maybe 15 minutes or so, I'm sitting there reading my book, didn't think anything of this interaction. She keeps muttering to herself. She goes, "Where my life is going." Are you kidding me? This girl's a stunner, and she's a goddamn doctor. How many years did she have to study? She never occurred to her to ask herself whether or not that's what she wanted to do. She just went with it. And I found that story absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. How could you possibly go down a path for so many years without questioning it. And then I realized that's not really that rare at all, actually. In fact, it's quite common. People don't stop and look at their lives. If you don't stop and look at it, then you're on autopilot. That's the fact of the matter. It doesn't, there's no gentler way of going about it. You are either living a life by design, an intentional life, a life that you actually want, or you're living a life by default. You know? When you do that victim bullshit of like, well, it's not my fault because this is happening and the world is like this and I'm single because of online dating. Man, fuck you, you're single because of online dating. Please. The world's going to do what it's going to do. How are you going to react to it? You know, you got to step into your power, gentlemen. You know? Take control of your life. Ask yourself the important questions. You know? Because otherwise, you're just along for the ride. And fingers crossed, it's a ride that you want. That's a hell of a crapshoot, isn't it? To have for your entire life. Your whole life to be there, right? So a company that I used to work for used to put it in that exact way, a life by design versus a life by default. Or you'll hear the phrase, if you don't pursue your dream, you're going to become a part of someone else's. And in business, that's absolutely the way it goes. And some people are fine being a part of someone else's, so it's a little bit less of you can have a very intentional life and not like be an entrepreneur. Like not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Those are smart people. But it's significant, you know. 15 years of schooling, 12 years of school, that girl was training to be a doctor, and she never stopped to think about whether or not she wanted to be. And honestly, I really super wish that I had kept in touch with her because I really want to know what happened to her after that day. And that was like a casual conversation on the bus. She wasn't a client. I wasn't teaching her anything. It was just, that kind of thing just happens around me, and it happens around me a lot. Now, does everybody like that? No, not everybody likes me. I know. I'm also surprised by that, but it's true. Go figure. And that makes perfect sense because nobody's everybody's type, right? I wouldn't want to be everybody's type. Ew. Have you met everybody? Ugh. Most of them are terrible. Most of you all are terrible. I'm just kidding. You're all wonderful. But nobody's everybody's type, right? So, at some point you're going to come across people who don't like you. Great. I was just speaking to a client earlier today about, his unknown caller. So sorry about that. And did that come through the thing? It did, yeah. Wait, where was I? That derailed me. Talking about intentional lives, and you guys are hearing me get distracted. Oh yeah, so a client earlier today, he was talking about having gone home to his family. He's made like massive progress in his life, right? So he had... was just in a real place of negativity and disconnection and difficulty in life, a lot of like just resistance of life and was just feeling unhappy, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, struggling with himself, right? Not accepting himself, a lot of self-rejection, and thus a lot of rejection of others. So it came off as being very sort of pointed and negative, but it's really the reflection of how he was feeling about himself, right? Made this unbelievable turnaround in just a matter of a couple of weeks working with me. All of a sudden, really just like washed in like gratitude and like positivity. I don't mean like Care Bear, but just like a lot more open, curious about life, letting people in, not so triggered, not negative, just really like in this really kind of quite powerful, really loving space. And then had to go home for a few days. And I think I've mentioned it at some point here on the show before, but there was a great saying that I learned in my master's program where they said, the wise man left the village and went into the world to seek enlightenment, and he became enlightened. And then he went home. And that's exactly how it is. It's like, oh, I've totally got this all down until you go home, till you go to your family, until and then shit starts getting real, right? Because you're in these templates from when you're, born to when you're, 15. And so you fall really back into that pattern, right? I mean, it just happens. It just happens. So it's the hardest place to be. And it was really pretty powerful. It was a whole different, this really difficult situation came up between him and his family. And he handled it just so incredibly well, because he has this new base from which to operate. And so even though, he was getting triggered from his family, it was like a total turnaround. He was able to sort of stand in his power and speak, to his mother, for example, of here are my feelings. They're valid by virtue of them being my feelings. You see what I mean? The anxiety comes a lot from rejecting reality. No, it can't be this way. It needs to be a different way. It's you're fighting a losing battle on that one, right? It makes you worried all the time because there's no trust that things are okay the way they are right now. So instead, your system's always hyped up and stressed. And that's the way this guy was for his entire life, right? It's one of the bigger turnarounds and success stories that I have amongst my clients, and I have a lot. I'm very proud and pleased to report. So he goes home and he has this whole different experience. Life is still going to happen. That's what I was coming back to. Life is still going to happen, and this is exactly what I said to him. I was like, look, it's not about, he was like, well, I want my mom to see me this way, or I want to, and yes, we all have ways we want our mothers to see us that they're just not going to see us, or maybe they are, but there's no point waiting for it, right? Life is going to happen. Let's take that as a given. Now, how do you want to be with it? Right? The goal isn't to have a life where nothing happens, right? That's not what anybody wants. Okay? What we think we want is a life where nothing bad happens. Okay? Yeah, that's a little bit out of our reach. We can't. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. It's not how this realm works. It's not how this planet was set up. Okay? That's okay. What if life could just happen the way it's going to happen, and we could choose how we react to it, right? So your mother's going to be who she's going to be, and she might, love and respect you and this new version of you. He's changed so much through this work with me, and he wants to share that, and he wants to be seen as this new person. And there are demands that we put on others that that really aren't able to, that just aren't realistic. There are demands that we put on others, and we can absolutely demand it. A lot of us demand it. And that is a surefire way to experience disappointment. Right? The extent to which your happiness is dependent on the world around you is the extent to which it is out of your control. Right? The extent to which you are unable or unwilling to take responsibility for your life. I can't find any women. I just can't. That is a statement that has no power in it. You can't fix that. Does that make sense? Do you understand? You can't, you're like, I can't find anyone. I just can't find anyone. You will spend the rest of your life like that. If nothing changes that belief, it will not change. I can't. Okay. I believe you. I can see how that's true for you. You can't argue with that statement. You can't move it. You can't shift it. You can't fix it. You're locking yourself in to the problem. Right? You're condemning yourself to life in the pit of despair. But what can you do? It's not your fault. This is wild to me, right? It's wild to me how far how much people would rather suffer than take responsibility. That's surprising to me. They would rather hurt, truly, because because they see it as, as taking responsibility. Now it's my fault. What is my fault that I'm single? It's not a fault thing. Okay. Taking self-responsibility is a positive. That is to me, the fact that there's something I can do about it is the best news you could possibly give me. Because if the problem were just with women, you would be screwed, right? But if you can shift it, right? Oh, okay, well, I guess my problem's meeting someone and I can't meet someone. Okay, what are you doing to try to meet someone? Well, I'm not trying anything. Oh, okay. So do you think that if you went out more that you would meet people? Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, great. Now the problem is in your hands, which means you can fix it. Before, it was out of your hands, which means you're a victim of it and there's nothing you can do. Make sense? So try not to hear that as blame, but do be aware that you are a vastly more powerful being than you think you are. So yeah, let it be your fault. Who cares? Good, fix it. Go out. Maybe going out's not the problem. Maybe the anxiety that's keeping you from leaving the house, or the profound fear of rejection, is keeping you from leaving the house and going and approaching women. Oh, okay. So now the problem to be solved is the fear of rejection. Why? What do you think is going to happen? What is that part of you that keeps you inside the house? This is what I do with people, right? So we walk through the whole system, the whole process. So I don't know what the problem is. Okay, well, if you could sort of narrow it down, like what seems to be the problem? I just can't find any women. Okay, great. What are you doing to look? Well, nothing. Okay. What's keeping you from going out and meeting some ladies? Well, I just assume they'll say no. I assume they will reject me. Okay. All right. So from the part of you that's 100% sure they're going to reject you, right? Because it's got to be convincing or you would leave the house. You're like, they might reject me, but they might not. I'll leave the house. But if, day after day, month after month, year after year, you're staying single and not moving forward because you are sure you're going to get rejected. Okay. Now you have a reason, right? You have a reason that you're not going out, okay? So now we find this place. Great. So the place in you that is so sure you're going to get rejected that you don't even bother leaving the house. That's how convincing it is, right? Now, this stuff is strong. You're smart. You would logic your way out of something that wasn't super strong. So like, this is strong. It's locked in your subconscious and it's legit. So we never dismiss this, right? So we look at it. Great. What is that part saying? What is what do you hear? Right? You may not hear it consciously, right? But what do you hear? Or what do you feel in your system that keeps you in the house, keeps you from going out and meeting people, right? And you'll find something, okay? If you slow it down, think of an example when this has happened, right? Well, it happened, last Wednesday, and I was going to, I thought to myself, I really ought to go out, and then I stayed home and watched Netflix instead. Okay, great. So then you find an example, and you slow it way down, okay? So it's not just like, I wanted to go, and then I decided not to. That's skipping a lot, actually. There's a lot that happened in that moment, okay? Because that's the crux of the self-sabotage, right? That's where the one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake happens. So, in that moment is the gold. Okay? That's where we look. And I have no problem giving away. I'll tell you exactly how it's all done. It's not a mystery. It's like a skill. I mean, it is kind of mysterious and a little bit magical to be honest, but it is measurable and repeatable. I've done this process. I've done this work myself for about 15 years, and I've seen it work thousands of times, and I've pretty much never seen it not work. So there's no, truly part of why I teach this work. It's interesting. I was, I run this business, the Art of Attraction, where I work specifically with single men in this process. And I was looking at my sort of, long-term like mission statement of the company and things like that. And I really had to go in deep and think, what is it what's my ultimate intention for this company? Like, what is the company's intention? And my fucking intention is to like bring this work to as many people as possible. So the more I can teach it, I'm teaching it to you for free. I've got no, whatever, go do it on your own, teach it to other people, like make the world a better place. Like this is my purpose here, right? This is what I do this for. So I'm happy to lay it all out or do it for you on the phone, if you call in with questions. Which, by the way, I'm trying to remind myself to give you guys the number more often. So it's 828-333-4686 if you want to call in with a question. So you slow down that moment, okay? The moment where you wanted to do something that would lead you toward your goal. I'm lonely. I've been lonely for years, frustrated. I want a partner. Great. I think I need to leave the house in order to go find a partner. Roughly. She might knock on your door. I wouldn't take those odds. I would just go ahead and go out more, right? I was going to go out that night and I decided not to. So right then, can you see how the thing that needed to happen was going out? And something kept you in. That's how you know there's a foot on the brake, right? So then you slow down that moment. Okay, what did you hear in that moment? What did you decide in that instant that kept you in the house? See how we're narrowing it down. We find the absolute crux of it. This is why this process happens so quickly, by the way. You probably hear me quite often saying that I get people incredible results in like a matter of like weeks. And by weeks, I mean, I offer my clients 2 coaching sessions per week. So genuinely, like we're talking about hours. Okay. And I work with multiple people on those calls, group coaching format. So within, when I say within a couple of weeks, these people have worked with me for maybe 4 hours total, max, over a couple of weeks. And they get these incredible results. And this is why I'm not talking to you about, in this example, sorry, I get excited and thoughts get a little messy. In this example of the person who wants to go out, but something's keeping him inside, this is exactly what happens, right? So, you could go to somebody with that issue, right? And they'll be like, okay, well, what is it? What do you think the problem is? And what have your past relationships been like? And and tell me about your childhood. And it's not that those aren't good questions. It's that they're not direct enough. If you look at what I just did there, as I walked you through this little process, we went all the way from, in a matter of minutes, by the way, we went all the way from someone coming to me being like, I'm single and I don't know why, all the way to, great, what are you telling yourself that's keeping you inside? What are you hearing? She's not going to want me anyway. They're all taken. Nobody wants me. I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. What are you hearing in your head in that moment that's keeping you from taking the path you know will lead to what you want? It has to be more powerful than what you want, or you would have gone. So you can see how I go straight to the core of it. I just go straight there. there's no reason to wait. There's no reason to talk about anything else. If they start going, and I'm quite direct about it, to be perfectly honest. Like sometimes I'm like, I sound kind of rude. I'm sorry, but that's time. Like that's time wasting, not mine, yours, right? If I let you go into your pattern, I had a call. One of my free strategy sessions with someone recently who I ended up booking into the program, new client, and he would talk about his ex. He was having a hard time getting over his ex and a hard time letting her go, and so he was fixated on her, right? Because he'd spent so long trying to figure out what the problem was. He'd been in this relationship for a long time, I think maybe 5 years, and he was in that mindset, right? Where you something's gone wrong, right? And you don't know what, and so you just keep turning it over and over and over again in your mind, right? You just keep chewing on it, kind of wallowing in it. And so what ends up happening is you get stuck there, right? Because it's a mental, it's like I call it the gerbil wheel, okay? Right? You're on one of those fucking wheels where you can't get off it, right? It's just your thoughts are just going around in the same circle it's always gone on. That shit is endless, people. Don't think you're going to think your way out of it. If you haven't by now, you're not going to in the future. Wake up. Be smart. Think. You can't figure this shit out with your brain. You need to do something else. Okay, so don't let yourself stay in that. So anyway, the whole point is like during that call, I interrupted him like probably 10, 15 times. Because I wouldn't let him go into. He's like, and I'm like, okay, well, how long has this been going on? And he said, well, because what the problem was she was, and I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not going to let you go back into the hamster wheel. It's not good for you. That is your self-sabotage right now. Right now, being fixated on her and what may or may not have gone wrong and endlessly looping that in your head is what's keeping you single. So I'm not going to let you sit there. That's not in your best interest. I don't care if you sign up with me or not. You might want to work with me and you might not. Not everybody wants to solve their problem. That's a whole other episode. Right? And I even said, I was like, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but here's why I'm doing that. And he saw it right away, which is good. Right? He was like, yep, I see it. And then he would keep doing it later because it's subtle and a little bit insidious, these mental patterns, right? And so then a little bit later in the call, he, I'd interrupt him again. He'd be like, yep, yeah, I'm doing it again. Yeah. Okay. So even just from that free intro call, whether or not he'd signed up with me or not, he saw that self-sabotage and now it's conscious. Now he can do something about it, right? Moving it from the subconscious to the conscious is the entire point. So we go all the way from, let's go back to our guy who doesn't go out of the house, right? Can't meet anybody. All the way from, I don't know why I'm 45 and still single, all the way to something's keeping you in or keeping you from approaching women. So let's look at that. And then we dive right in. And then there will be a belief there. Okay, you find the belief. What are you telling yourself? That's what I said, right? What are you telling yourself that is keeping you from going out, is keeping you from approaching women? What are you telling yourself? Right? And whatever that is the belief that is keeping you single right now. That's it. So you dive down, you find it, okay, and you challenge it. I'm unlovable. Women will betray me. People can't be trusted. I'm not enough. Nobody wants me. Very short, simple, childlike statements. Because this process happened when you were a child. So those beliefs were formed at that point, and they're so deep in the subconscious that by definition, you can't find them, right? And look, if it's around rejection and things like that, the fact of the matter is you might get rejected. Okay? Go find someone else. Why does that end your night? How much dependence are you putting on the results of this one interaction? I found somebody on Tinder and she disappeared or she stood me up. All right, she was terrible. Next. Why would that collapse you? Why are you making that about you? Right? So there's this kind of balance. In a way, it's all about you. If it's in your life experience, it is relevant. It is a pattern, right? On the other hand, not taking shit personally. So there is a kind of balance there, right? You want to look at things. That's interesting. I seem to be getting rejected a lot. I wonder what's happening in me that's causing that to happen in my life. That's it. That's the whole thing right there. I wonder what's happening in me that's causing this to happen in my life. So in that way, very personal, right? But in the way of like you go up to a girl in a club and you try and hit on her and she's like, I'm not really into it, sorry, and she goes away. Or you say, would you like to dance? She says no. Whatever the kids are doing these days. To have that experience and then collapse because it didn't go the way you want it to go, that's how I mean about taking it personally, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Or it's just something to be aware of. Why is your whole night ruined? Because somebody rejected you. Maybe you're not her type. Maybe she's having a bad night. Maybe you look like her brother. Maybe she's a lesbian. Maybe she's got a boyfriend. Maybe she's just not feeling it tonight. Or she's with her lady friend. I mean, whatever. What I'm saying is there are infinite reasons why there's infinite reasons why a thing may have happened. Don't take responsibility for why the thing may have happened. Find your peace. Okay? If you get rejected by, multiple women in a row, okay, great. So now I wonder what it is. Okay? Go to the moment. Slow it down. What happened in you? Okay? What happens in those moments that causes that negative reaction? Okay? Because you might be coming in being like, yeah, like, I really just want to meet someone, and you're maybe even coming from a really positive place. But there's more going on here, guys, right? This is all in the subconscious. It's very intensive. And it's really in there deep. So even if you're like, I did everything right, I have a whole like slew of clients who come to me solely because, and their issue is, I'm doing everything right and it's still not working. As soon as that's the case for you, you're in my area of expertise. Because you're doing everything right. You're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. But it's not working. So something else is in the way, right? Your foot is on the brake. Now, where and why? And then when you do that, there's a whole shift that happens. Okay, when you find that belief, honestly, most of the time, we don't even really work on most of the time sorry you guys, I got distracted and lost my train of thought. So when we have these experiences, we have these patterns. Oh yeah, most of the time, by the time you get to the actual pattern, the problem is itself solved by virtue of seeing it. So all of this stuff is happening in our subconscious, right? I say that all the time. So it's like, having a room in your house that's like dark, right, and the door is sort of like closed. You never open that door, and you're like, something scary is in there. I'm not going to open there. As long as it stays in the shadows, it's it holds power, okay? There's a huge amount of discomfort with the unknown, right? There's a huge amount of fear when we don't look at things. That's why what I do works so quickly, because we just look right at it. And it's a little uncomfortable, and you're like, oh, I don't want to look in that door. And then you look, and it's not that bad.
Skype audio.
Okay, I got a call coming in here. Hello, this is Dominey.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, who's this?
It's Nathaniel.
Hi, Nathaniel, how are you?
Good, good. So I'm watching on the live stream, and then I was just, something made me want to call in. So I have a disability. I'm autistic, and I have Asperger's. And one of the issues that I have with when it comes with women is picking up on social cues.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have a hard time picking up on those social cues, it creates a lot of anxiety. And I feel like, well, I'm out. I just made something awkward. Now I don't want to be here. So then I distance myself, or I just leave to go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to, like, be able to pick up on social cues. I want to be able to pick up on the body language, instead of them saying, oh, well, I'm not interested, or like making up an excuse for them to say that they're not interested.
Okay. Nathaniel, do you do anything physical in your life?
Physical as in like physical activity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I go to the gym.
Okay.
At least 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay, great. So what I would recommend is in adding some more, okay? Whether that's playing a sport or taking a dance class or something like that. And here's why. Oftentimes, the main reason we miss signals from other people is because we're disconnected from ourselves.
Right.
Okay? In particular, we're disconnected from our bodies.
Right.
Okay, so there's a huge amount of information actually that's stored in the body. Okay, one of the reasons you've probably seen me teach on here that I teach the sort of breathing and coming down into your body is because there's a lot of information that's happening in the world that we miss because we're sort of in our heads, right? That's where the anxiety lives, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably missing signals. Well, I think it's probably a cycle by this point, to be honest, okay? I think it's probably partially a cycle in the sense of the anxiety is causing you to be out of your body, right? Because fear takes you up and out, okay? It's a flight response. And anxiety is fear, right? So if you're always in flight mode, then you're not going to pick up on, you're not going to be able to connect to your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, so there's a couple of things that are going to happen. Here's an exercise I think would be really useful for you. If you bring your awareness to your breath, okay, and just notice it. Notice what your breath is doing naturally on its own if you don't do anything with it, okay, if you don't change it at all. And then notice if it, flows in evenly from the right side of your body to the left. And then notice if it flows in evenly from the front of your body to the back. Okay. And then let yourself, wherever it is, okay, let's say it goes into like the middle of your rib cage in the front, and a little bit less in the back, and pretty evenly right to left. It doesn't matter. Just notice what's there. Don't judge it. Just trust it. Okay. And then I want you to get curious about the line where your breath stops. Okay. Where, what is there that's keeping it from going deeper? And then identify that. So give it, look at the shape of it, look at the size, look at the texture, things like that. And what this is going to do, and then you can even ask it questions just to finish walking you all the way through this exercise. So you can even say, like, what's your purpose here? What are you doing? And then maybe something like, what would be useful for you? What do you need? Okay, that would be the question that I would ask, whatever is there. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to start to develop a relationship between you and your body consciously. Okay? So bringing your awareness to your breath in that way will bring you down out of your head. First of all, you will not be anxious anymore. So this is something that you can do to get yourself out of anxiety if you want. Okay, because once you start to drop down into your body, you're out of your head, which is where the anxiety lives, and so you don't feel it anymore. Okay?
Right.
So you're going to notice a couple of things. You're going to notice once you come out of your head, you're going to start slowing down. Okay? The chatter, I don't know if you have a lot of chatter in your head all the time, but that's going to stop because that also doesn't exist in your body. Things are going to get a little bit quieter, a little bit calmer. And the more time you can spend there, the better. Like I would spend like 20 minutes like intentionally every day doing this, feeling into your body, seeing what it needs. And then I would just do it as often as you can when you're out living your life. Okay. And what's going to happen is you're going to start being more present. Okay. And when you're more present, a number of things happen. One is, as I said, the anxiety is going to go down. Your mind's going to slow down. The fear is going to be less because you're less sort of projecting. Because when you're anxious, you can let me know if this feels right for you or not. There's a lot of projecting on what you think people are going to think of you, right? And then you decide it's not good, and then you feel, anxious about it. But you don't know how they feel about you, right? You're just deciding that it's not good. So that's what happens through that projection is you're like, oh, that person's not even going to like me. They already don't like me. I can't believe nobody likes me. You can see how that whole cycle like happened without any other person there, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit out of reality in that way. And so when you come down, you connect with yourself more, you're more present. Another thing that's going to happen is you're going to start to develop some trust in yourself. Okay? Because it sounds to me like when you're with women or you're in these sort of social circumstances that your the anxiety is around if they don't like me, right? The place to kind of get to is like, yeah, they might not. Can that be okay?
Yeah.
Do you need them to like you? Can you like you whether they like you or not? So even though your question was about women or being social in a way, it actually comes down to your relationship with you. Okay, I think that needs to strengthen. I think you need to really be more present with yourself in your body. Do that breathing exercise really as much as you can. Do it a lot when you're at the gym. Like really be aware of your body, of the muscles that are, feel them, feel the cells, feel the muscle, feel your skin. Get really tangible and down because that will bring you into the moment. Okay, and then you're going to start seeing the signals because you're there to see them, right? Instead of being scared. And also the anxiety is going to go down, which sounds really important for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it seems that, working out at the gym, like running on the treadmill or hitting the elliptical and then hitting the weights seems to like I'll be tired and then I'll want to stop. But I'm like, no, I need to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, so give that a shot. And let me know or write me a note on my Facebook page and let me know how that how that helps. Because I think if you're able to do that, and I know I just gave you a lot, but feel free to re-listen to this episode on the podcast pages.
Oh yeah,
if you want.
I subscribed on iTunes, so it
Good.
lets me know
Good.
each time there's a new episode posted.
Good, great. Well, this one will be up today, and feel free to have a re-listen to it because I know I just gave you a whole bunch of information, but I think that'll really help.
Well, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you and everything that you do.
Oh.
And it just, being able to watch the live feeds and call in, like, for people that are hearing this right now, let me tell you, it definitely is worth calling in and talking to you because, I mean, you don't sugarcoat.
I don't sugarcoat. I don't have time for that shit. You're absolutely right. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Oh, no problem.
Well, thank you for calling anytime. And send me a note on Facebook. Let me know how it goes.
All right. Have a good day.
You too, darling.
All right. Bye-bye.
I tell you what, I have so many testimonials and I have so many people calling in and just saying how great the information is. And that is just absolutely why I do this shit. It really is. It just lights me up. So that's really warms my heart to hear. All right. That is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be with you next week. Again, my name is Dominey Drew. This is The Art of Attraction. If you would like to schedule a call with me, I'd be more than happy to speak with you on the phone. It's domineydrew.com/schedule. Please feel free to schedule a session and we'll see how I can help. All right. And also, download, subscribe, find the podcast anywhere you like, and look forward to speaking with you on a call in a future episode, perhaps. All right. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.